What's going on, guys? Chuck here, coming at you with another 3D classic. And this one is a bit of a landmark film in the history of 3D. Definitely a milestone in a lot of ways. But why is that? What makes this film so important? Well, the film we're going to talk about today is from 1952, and it's Bwana Devil. What makes Bwana Devil so important to 3D? Well, this happens to be the first full-length feature film in color in 3D. So this is kind of the film that started it all. This, like I said, before this, I think maybe like 3D shorts here and there, but this is the first one to release theatrically and in full color. As I said, you use the polarized 3D effect, not the anaglyph, as I've talked about so often, and all this was an attempt to, again, steer audiences away from the television sets, and to kind of help the Cinerama process that just had been debuted not too long ago, and it wasn't quite doing it, so it was a little something else to put out there in theaters for audiences to come flock to. And this is what started it. Without this film, the 3D craze, wouldn't have happened, I guess, 3 times over. All because of Bwana Devil. Which is interesting because when you think about it, or not when you think about it, but when you look at Bwana Devil, it's a very, in terms of 3D films, it's kind of, dare I say, unremarkable. Let's back up a bit. So, Bwana Devil is actually, even back up further than that. When I first heard of Bwana Devil, here's the title of Bwana Devil, and it's in 3D. You're thinking, I think the only image I've seen wasn't this image here necessarily, but it was an image of, I think, lion jumping out of the screen, artistic drawing, stuff like that. But I hear the name Bwana Devil, and it makes me think, wow, that sounds like it's some kind of, maybe, I don't know, jungle, I don't know, I don't want to say voodoo, but, some kind of tribal witchcraft, something along those lines you'd see in these kind of typical B movies. That's the impression I get with Bwana Devil, or thinking when I hear the title Bwana Devil. So imagine my surprise when I find out Bwana Devil is a film based on actual events from the early 20th century, maybe 19th century, about some killer lions in the jungle. So it's in essence just an adventure film, which is so weird for this to be the first 3D film. I mean, because look at the films that we talked about that actually came after this. Films like House of Wax, Robot Monster, It Came from Outer Space, the 2 Creature from the Black Lagoon films thus far. These are all horror sci-fi. They got something spectacular, things that make sense for stuff to be thrown in 3D. But no, Bwana Devil is strictly a jungle adventure film, a drama, for lack of a better term. And so it's a really interesting film to decide to put in 3D. And I've got notes here, so I'm going to be looking down here because I wouldn't remember anything otherwise. But to give you some background here, the Bwana Devil is based on based on a true story of the Tsavo man-eating lions from around, something like 18 or 1900s. Well, I can't remember the exact date. I had it written down somewhere, or maybe you look it up, you can find it. It's like in the late 1800s, I believe it was. Basically British East Africa, again under British control, it's early 20th century, and they're building the Ugandan Railway, which is Africa's first rail system, and it's a very hot, it's very bad conditions. Well, and throughout this, the men who are working on it, which tribal people, the British colonies are basically, or British people are putting people to work to build this railroad, but they're being stopped because there are these 2 lions that are terrorizing the work site and the people around him, and it wreaks havoc. That's really the gist of it. I'm sure there's more complex stuff to it, but that's really you're trying to build this railway, and the lions are eating people. that's it. And like I said, this is a story that's been, I guess it was based off on a novel. Let's see, called The Man Eaters of Savo, which was printed in 1907. So yeah, this took place in the late 1890s, I think it was, by Lieutenant Colonel J.H. Patterson, who was the actual person who shot and killed these two lions eventually. It's been it's made in a film a few times, most notably, and probably the most popular one, is Ghost in the Darkness from 1996 with Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer. Which I remember seeing that trailer for that film, had no idea what it was about, so it's interesting to find out that this was the case. It's about this. Bwana Devil itself stars nobody, really. No, I can't say that. It's got one big major star, and that's Robert Stack. He's the lead character in this film. And a very, very young Robert Stack, obviously. Now, for many people who aren't familiar with Robert Stack, or younger people here watching, assume I have any younger viewers watching, people my age are going to know Robert Stack from probably one of two things. And that is most likely as the narrator or host of a great 80s, TV show, Unsolved Mysteries. He's got a really deep, booming voice. He would come on and host these really creepy, true life events, again, Unsolved Mysteries. He's very famous for that. The theme song is very popular. But people from the 80s know Robert Stack from that. They may also know Robert Stack as the voice of Ultra Magnus in the 1986 Transformers the movie. So there's, people of my generation, that's where you know Robert Stack from primarily. But for that, he obviously is a well-known actor. He's also, I should say, another one you might know him from, he is an Airplane. I can't remember his name, but he's like the guy talks Stryker down from the air traffic control, trying to bring the plane in. And he's very, very funny. He's got that great scene walking through the terminal of the airport, where he's harassed by all these, Hare Krishna has people offering all these different pamphlets, and he just basically takes them down one by one as he goes through the hallway. It's a hilarious scene. He's very good at it because he plays it so straight, and he's a no nonsense kind of guy. Robert Stack, you just look at him, he's a very tough looking guy, so it's cool to see him play this comedy part very straight. But he, like I said, very young. He is the lead in here. He's in charge of trying to keep this, railway construction going, and he's not having the best time. He's struggling with figuring out what to do with these lions and how to take them out. And I don't know. It's okay. It's again, young Robert Stack before we know who he was. You also have Barbara Britton, who plays his wife, who shows up like halfway through the film. He's been away from her for a while. She shows up with these British hunters who are going to try to take down the lions, and she's there for a lot of Robert Stack to say, "No, you're a woman. I'm the man. I should take care of this," and her taking care of kids and whatnot. It's very 1950s. And then you have Nigel Bruce, who plays Robert Stack's kind of right-hand guy. He's helping him. And they're like the only three main characters in this film. I know it's a lot of vague description, but quite frankly, Bwana Devil doesn't have a whole lot of meat to the bone, if you will. The story is pretty much, like I said, what it is. It's very simple, cut dry, nothing a whole lot to it. It kind of has a slow pace. It's kind of, even for a night, it feels very B-movie. It doesn't strike you as anything just more than the sum of its parts, if you will, if that's the correct phrase. There's not much in the violence or gore. It's kind of off-screen, or it's implied. There's some bits here and there. Be quite frank, I watched this film a couple of weeks ago. like right after I first got, because this is a brand new release from Kino Lorber, and excuse me, Kino Lorber and 3D Archive who put this out, and this is a very, very big deal. And I'll explain that in a minute too. So I watched it and I got it, and you know, I had a hard time trying to figure out what to actually say, because there's not really a whole lot about it, and it's not very engaging as a film, quite frankly. It's just there, unfortunately. Now, that being said, the 3D was amazing. Kudos to 3D Archive, because they really did a fantastic number with the 3D. The being out in the desert, the jungle areas, I mean, with the lions and everything. A lot of this stuff is just really, you really get a sense of depth throughout the film. It's, almost every shot has got it's something that looks really good. I mean, there's nothing really eye-popping, no gags per se. I mean, the lions are kind of walking maybe up towards the camera. And the use of, real lines is pretty cool. But there's nothing that really, jump at you moments. It's more about just the atmosphere and the presentation and the setting, if you will. And all that's good. It looks fantastic. You really got to get a sense of depth. The 3D is great. Unfortunately, it's not enough to hold up for the rest of the film. It's kind of lackluster. Not much to it. And kind of a drag, like I said. And apparently this did not do very well. Critic-wise, apparently it made a good chunk of money. I don't think it really. I think it said here there was eventually that was it 20th Century Fox, whoever it was, actually took some kind of loss in the film. I can't have notes here somewhere, but people seem to like it. There was a big premiere, which I think Life magazine was there, had a photographer there who took a picture of all these people with the 3D glasses on, watched the film. It's become a very iconic photo of these people in the theater, transfixed with the glasses on, watching this film. So, I mean, it definitely has its place in history as for what it is and what it would, lead to, being the first full-length feature film in 3D. And of course, it would lead to not long after, House of Wax and so on and so forth, which the bar at this point. And the story of how it became is quite fascinating, and it's not one I can really get into because there's a lot of stuff involved in it, and I would just be here way longer than you need to hear me talk about that. But it's all there in the Wikipedia notes, and it's also talked about on here. But it's interesting how the idea of putting together this 3D process to show a film and what it would entail, and the polarization of the glasses, all those different things in the cameras that you use. It's a fascinating story, and how this film eventually came to be, to have a place in history as what it is. So to the Blu-ray, this is a big deal in a sense that this is actually the first ever physical media release of this film. Because as far as I can tell from the notes I have, this was never released on VHS, never put on DVD. It was a Amazon Video streaming for a little bit, probably long after they got this. But, Kino Lorber and 3D Archive released this on Blu-ray the first time in true 3D. So that's pretty cool, is that you're getting this piece of history. You're able to view it, and it's not lost to the annals of time, if you will. So that's cool in itself. And this is a nice presentation. I can't deny that. I mean, like I said, there's your cover with great, nice poster artwork here. And again, now seeing this image gives you more an idea of what you're dealing with, jungle animals and killer lions, more so than I think the original poster that I saw. Here's your back. And there's some nice features on here. Not a whole lot, but you've got... The big thing on here, honestly, is the story of Bwana Devil. 3D expert Mike Balu presents the story of Bwana Devil with archival images, post art, and on-set stereo slides. So it's basically I guess what's the word I'm looking for? It's an audio essay, more or less, and you're just basically it's throwing up slides of posters, images, a lot of them repeating too. So you're not getting on like talking heads, you just hear person's, the voiceover, and then just keep showing them all this same slides kind of over and over again. But you can see them in 3D, so they're kind of floating at you. But that's really the gist of that. But it's a fascinating story, again, talking about just the whole making of this film and what led to the 3D process and creating it and people involved in that. So that it's interesting to listen to. I just wish they'd had a better presentation than just these slides in 3D. See, then you have M.L. Gunsberg presents Natural Vision 3 Dimension. The original 1952 prologue featuring Lloyd Nayland, Shirley Teague, and Bob Clampett's Beanie and Cecil from TV's Time for Beanie. This was interesting. This is the prologue to the film, basically kind of introducing the audience to what 3D is. You have these Beanie and Cecil, which are like sock puppets on TV. The host comes in and he's explaining to the audience, and he talks to these characters. I guess were probably a very popular children's television program at the time, trying to explain to them what 3D is. And it's a neat little fact when the narrators, tells, hey, projectionist, can you this, flips it, or snaps his fingers, and the film goes to 3D. So that's kind of cool. And, basically, you have, like, the girl comes on stage and the set, and they're just, reaching little gags to the audience and stuff like that. So this is the kind of thing where they're priming the audience for what 3D is. And, this is the first time we're doing this. It's, really cool. And now here's our feature presentation. They did something similar with Robot Monster, I remember. So that was kind of a thing. You also have... Okay, this is also in 2D. And it's in Blu-ray 3D. And it's in, the regular 3D or anaglyph 3D. So that's, you have 3 different versions of watching it. You have, like I said, you can just watch it flat. Or if you've got 3D TV or projector, you can watch it in the real 3D, or you can put on the glasses and watch the red and blue 3D. And you've got trailers, and you've also had the intermission snipe, which, again, I guess I can come to watch because these films are really too short for intermission. As I'm seeing a lot in these 3D films, but I guess I can kind of get it because they're switching reels probably, for the 3D process, so it's a little different thing back then. But it's really weird to have it when it's an hour and a half long, have an intermission. That's a walk in the park for us now. Why would you have intermission? Nowadays we have movies that are 4 hours long. No one bothers to put an intermission when you could really use one. So I find that kind of funny. And that's what you get for probably special features, Gail. So here's the disc proper. There is no reverse art, and again, it is Kino Lorber, so you're getting your basic disc, but it does come with, a set of anaglyph glasses from 3D Archive. If you don't have the capability to watch the Blu-ray 3D, you can still watch it in the anaglyph red blue 3D, which I would highly recommend against, if at all possible. I said with any 3D film, if you can see it in Blu-ray 3D, do that. Do not see it in red and the anaglyph red and blue, because it will just mess up your eyes, and no one likes it. At least with the polarized, you have the grayscale, and it's a little bit. I mean, some people I know it can bother eyes, but it's better. But again, it's nice that they give you options. That's the important thing. That's really all there is to Bwana Devil, unfortunately. Again, for a movie as important in 3D history, it's actually become more of a footnote. If it was a better movie, and maybe if like House of Wax had been the very first 3D film, that would be amazing. But it wasn't. Bwana Devil was, and it's an interesting choice. But I mean, I'm sure there's going forward. There's probably a lot of other jungle adventures that were put in 3D, and I'm sure like I said, it looks good. The story's just not there. It's very much a B movie. I can't recommend you watching this. There's not really a lot to get out of this. Even Robot Monster, which is a bad movie, is fun. I can get a little joy out of that. Bwana Devil, not so much. I don't really even get the. There's not even enough. I think it really takes itself seriously, so I can't have the fun with it that I came with the ridiculous of Bubbles and a gorilla with a scuba diver's mask on. So yeah, I mean, check it out for posterity's sake. Just as a piece of history, but don't really recommend you go out of your way to see it. I have it. I'm glad I have it again for the sake of posterity and for history. That this is the first. Say it again, full length feature film in color in 3D. I'm glad to have this, but and the Blu-ray is great. The presentation is good. The 3D is amazing, but the film just isn't enough to make the rest of it worth it. But there you go. Hopefully next time we're up to something a little bit more upbeat. 3D wise, something I can kind of have a little more fun with. But that's it for now. If you enjoyed this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Let me know if you've checked out Bwana Devil. Considering it's never been on any kind of home media, I'm pretty sure you probably haven't. I'm probably the one person. I'm sure there's a few out there. 3D fanatics and cinephiles. And let me say again, if nothing else, the story of Bwana Devil is really interesting. I just wish the presentation, how they put it on here, was better. I would have been better with talking heads than just a 3D images floating back and forth as the person talks over that. But it is still a fascinating story. But if you don't want to check it out, look it up on Wikipedia. It's still pretty cool there too. Or just say hi. I'll always take hi. So until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.